Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, whenever the fuck you're listening. Welcome to Tailgate Trash Talk, episode number 14, the season finale recap. My man Gary Freeze right next to me. Gary, how's it going, brother?
Going good, man. Excited to talk about the game, talk about our wrap up for the season, and let's see what the offseason holds too.
For sure. So tonight's episode is basically just a recap of the college football season in general, but also just a brief recap of the Natty from last Monday. And what a game it was. A rematch of the SEC championship game between Alabama and Georgia. Alabama obviously having the upper hand in the SEC championship game. And in most people's eyes, I think they were the favorite, but Vegas had them as underdogs. I think the final line was, what was it, 2.5, 3?
I think it was, right around a field goal.
Yeah. And so Kirby Smart gets that big old monkey off his back, beats his former mentor, and gets the job done. And Georgia wins their first national championship in 41
or something like that.
Yeah, 41 years, I believe. Man, and it was a good game, too. It was a good game. And then Georgia kind of broke away there at the end with that pick six, kind of sealing the deal for them. But what are your thoughts? What are your takeaways from that national championship game?
Yeah, very similar. I'm happy for Georgia. I'm happy. I've got some friends that are big Georgia fans. Happy for them getting the monkey off their back, especially to be able to do it against, obviously Darth Saban there. It's a big deal for college football in general too. Georgia's a brand, and they're a brand that's not been at the top of the mountain in, as you said, 40 plus years. So it's a big deal to get them back there. They've always been competitive, but it always seems they just can't get over the hump. It's losing to Bama in the SEC title game, or losing to Bama in both the SEC title game and the national championship. So big deal for them. It's great. The celebration from Stetson Bennett afterwards, showing up on Good Morning America, clearly inebriated.
For sure.
Still feeling himself from the night before, chugging a $200, or no, actually it was like a $2,400 bottle of whiskey. Pappy. Yeah, man.
Oh yeah.
So getting it in. I'm sure one of the boosters paid for that bottle, or some sort of NIL money paid for that bottle. So enjoy it, young man. Enjoy it. You don't get to chug $2,000 bottles of whiskey very often.
No, you don't.
It was awesome. And I know he had mentioned before the game that he wanted to recreate the iconic moment of Joe Burrow in the locker room smoking a cigar. So I think we've got our Stetson Bennett moment. Pappy Van Winkle, they've got a advertising, Buffalo Trace, they've got an advertising opportunity with Stetson Bennett. Buffalo Trace being the company that brews it, but or distills it. So it's great to see the kids having a good time. And it was clear that Strahan was doing his best to keep him on track on Good Morning America. It was so funny. Like, Strahan knew what was going on.
He's been there before. He's been there.
So it was awesome, man. The whole atmosphere, the game was great. As you said, it was close, tight, right up until the end there where Georgia kind of ran away. But it was awesome. And then obviously everything afterwards was really cool to watch how it unfolded for a school that's been starved for a national championship for so long, but also a team and a coach that knew what the implications were playing against Bama, especially in that national championship game.
Yeah, for sure. And, one thing that when we were broadcasting last week during the game, one thing that we were talking about was the lack of scoring. It was the first half was obviously a defensive battle between both squads. I mean, as the halftime score, I believe, was 9-6. So a total of 5 field goals made in the entire first half. And, and everyone, myself included, but a lot of our viewers were commenting on your 52 point
52 and a half.
Yeah.
It was
Bet there.
doomed at halftime.
It was doomed at halftime, but what made it even worse,
Oh,
what
God.
made it even worse was the very end.
Oh,
It was 51. The final score total was 51 points.
it got
And
hectic down the stretch, and as I saw the time just ticking away, I'm like, oh my
yeah,
God, I'm gonna need a flurry because it started to pick up and then it slowed a little, and then Bama threw the pick six, and I'm like, oh my God, is it possible that Bama could streak down the field for some? But no, it was
if only one of those teams would have converted on their 2-point conversion,
right.
or maybe even
Something, man.
just kick the extra points, you would have been golden. And who saw that?
Yeah.
Who saw that coming though, too, especially going into the second
No
half
way.
with 15
No way.
points total between the two teams.
I had already chalked it up as a loss.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it got interesting late for
It did.
those that had the over. I did know, or I did hear afterwards that the early line was like 50.5. I got it real late. So a lot of people that got in early are really happy because they got to 51 and felt really good about themselves after that flurry late.
So the early bird got the worm. Early bird got
I
the
was
worm
not
on that
part
one.
of that early bird getting the worm. So I paid the price for waiting until the last. I put it in on Monday too. I paid the price waiting until the last minute to put it in. So you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
I lost both my bets too because I had Bama money line as well. So I took a hit that night on both of my wagers. So.
It's all right. I would have been right there with you. So I just didn't bet any money, so it's all good for me. You know,
how elated are you though if you had the early line 50.5 and it gets to 51? You're just like, holy shit!
Well, you got
shit!
Everyone's in the same boat at halftime. Everyone's in the same boat. Like no one's thinking you're going to get to 50 the way the first half played out.
No way.
You know, and so then with that pick six, that pick six set him over the top there. And so everyone that got in early, they're rejoicing. They're rejoicing. And then here's my man Gary. He's just like, these motherfuckers. Come on. Like, come on, Bama.
Just 2 points.
Just give me some points here. Give me some trash points here. And it just didn't happen. Just didn't happen. I felt bad for you.
It is what it is.
It is. It is. One of the key moments for me that I think was a turning point in that game was obviously is it Williams?
Yeah.
Williams going down with that knee injury, and when they were showing the replay of it, you, myself, and I think everybody watching with us basically just had the same reaction. Like that was a stomach turning injury right there, and not as bad as other injuries, obviously, but just the way that you saw that knee buckle and then him just go down right away. Like he felt it, he grabbed it, and he went down, and he wasn't getting up. Now he did walk off on his own power. He came back out on the field on his own power, which was good to see. So that kind of made it look like it wasn't that serious, but he still had a limp when he was walking. But it came out, I believe, was it right after it was in the post-game interview with Saban? I think
Saban said it to Kirby too, but yeah, he said it in the post-game. But they caught audio of him and Kirby talking after the game when Saban said, "You kicked our ass in the fourth quarter." Mm-hmm. Then Kirby asked him, what happened with your wide receiver there, Williams, and he said, that we think he's got an ACL. So, and you could tell Saban was real dejected. And yeah, not to take anything from Georgia, because obviously they did what they needed to do to win the game.
For sure.
But yeah, without that guy, and they'd already been without Mechie, it's clear they don't really have, it's college football, right? You don't have depth beyond two of the top NFL prospects, right? Like both of those guys are going to be top 10 picks. Now, Williams probably won't now with the injury. But both were expected to be top 10, top 15 picks in the NFL. How do you recover from that? So it was, at the time, the game was still kind of in the balance, low scoring. To lose him, if it got into a shootout, you saw it play out with Bama. They couldn't keep up with Georgia once the floodgates opened. Bama just didn't have the weapons. So, and it's similar too to remember the Clemson national championship when Bo Scarborough was just fucking running it down their throats.
Yeah.
And then he broke his leg. Mm-hmm. And like from that moment forward, Clemson took over that game. Now it isn't as dramatic a turning point as that because Bama and Georgia were still kind of punching back and forth when Williams got hurt, but it's similar to that sort of injury in a game like that. It's hard to recover from stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. And I want to touch base on another key moment that I thought was really going to turn the tide here, and that was the somewhat forward pass but turned fumble and Alabama recovering barely by like a thin of a toenail there on the sideline. It was, man, if they did not slow that down into slow motion replay, I thought it was a fumble. I did think it was a fumble first off, but as far as Alabama recovering it, absolutely not. Like the dude he gave up on the play.
It seemed so nonchalant, but he was so fortunate to get his toe in by like a cunt hair. Like,
yeah,
it was so close. Like you could barely just see the shade of green between his toe and the sideline. It was so nuts.
And so when Alabama got that turnover, I for sure thought that was it.
Here it comes.
Here comes Alabama. This is what Alabama does to teams. Force it. They turn the ball over. Yep. Force a turnover, go down and score, and it just dejects the other team. But kudos to Georgia for bouncing back after that and creating some mishaps on Alabama's offensive side, getting the ball back, going down, scoring. Stetson doing his thing. He had a much better second half, I thought, compared to the first half. And it was almost a tale of two halves there with the quarterbacks. I thought Bryce Young played decently the first half. Stetson not so much. Stetson was under pressure a lot more. And then second half, the tables turned, and it was Bryce Young that was under pressure more, and Stetson was making the plays when they needed to.
Yeah, I think we saw some really good in-game adjustments too from Georgia that we normally expect from Saban and crew, and really turned that first half woes into successes in the second half. Offensively, they started to spread the field more, get the ball out to their playmakers a little quicker. Stetson was a bit more decisive, which contributes, right? You can put a game plan in place as much as you want, but if the players don't execute, then it can be a nightmare. Bennett got the ball out quicker, was a bit more decisive, but I also thought on defense they were bringing more pressure in the second half, and really getting Bryce Young off his spot. And you brought up Jamison Williams. I think that you have that luxury of doing that because you don't have to worry about that guy busting the top off the defense. So I think that contributed a bit, but it was a great decision, a great change by Georgia to start to get after Bryce Young, get him off his platform, and really create some havoc for Alabama. And those linebackers were fucking flying all over the field.
Flying all over the field.
Bama ran it down their throats in the SEC title game. 46 rushes by Brian Robinson. Like,
he wasn't getting anything.
Not Monday. Nope. Not in the national title game. Absolutely not.
There was I think there was a drive there where, and I think we were talking about too. That's where he had a few carries there where he was getting some good yardage, 6-7 yards a carry.
You started to feel like he was going to get it going.
Exactly. And then all of a sudden, Georgia's defense, they buckled down and they collapsed those holes. Those linebackers filled those gaps. Yep. And then they got pressure on Bryce Young, like you said. And once you close down the gaps in the run game and you're bringing the pressure on Bryce Young and they can't stop the pressure and he's having to make decisions quicker than he's used to, leads to the turnovers, and that's what we saw there that sealed the game for him there at the end in the fourth quarter.
Yep, so. Absolutely. Masterful performance by Georgia in the second half for sure. And Saban said it right. They kicked their ass in the fourth quarter.
Yeah. And he's not afraid to say it either.
Right.
And that's the one thing that I love about Saban.
You ain't getting a filter.
No. And why should you? Why should you?
No.
You know, he tells you like it is. He tells you he tells you the good and he tells you the bad. Yeah. That you don't want a coach that just fills you with the BS, you know, and then tells you with all the bad, or vice versa. I love that Saban tells it like it is, both good and bad. And I think that's what people love about him though too. And and probably hate about
maybe
him.
Hate a little bit too.
Yeah, exactly.
You're getting brutal honesty with him.
Yeah.
Aaron, you're absolutely right. Stetson should stay within the state lines of Georgia and just do a victory lap for the rest of his life. That dude's gonna live like a king.
You're not saving for being a good loser. Yeah. Raul, I think America in general was ready for someone else besides Alabama to win. And for a program like Georgia, who's been there, who's been competing in the SEC, and who's been having, they've been so close. They were so close like 4 years ago when, and that's when Tua came out that second half and led him to victory in overtime on that beautiful play in overtime that won the game for him. And for a program that hasn't won in 41 years, for a guy like Kirby Smart, who coached under Saban, who looks to Saban as a mentor and everything, good for Georgia. And like Raul said, we all won that day. Yeah, I think college football, I think everybody won for sure.
Yeah. And you could tell too that Saban, despite losing, was genuinely happy for Kirby too.
Yeah,
that was the thing that stuck out to me immediately when they went to they showed him on camera approaching Kirby at midfield there when they shook hands. Like, you could tell that Saban was genuinely happy for Kirby for having won a national title game. Now, I'm sure he went back in the locker room and didn't have a lot of fun words to say, or maybe I don't know, maybe he takes it a little better, and then next offseason he uses that as fire. Whatever it is, he's going to use that. But you could tell in the moment he was clearly very happy and genuinely happy for a friend, right? Because they worked together for a long, long time.
Exactly. And then, Aaron, I know it won't be in the near future, but what will college football look like without Saban? It's a great question. And I think we actually talked about it last week during the game. Like, Saban, I believe, still has like 6 or 7 years remaining on his contract.
Yeah.
Like, he just re-signed like 2 years ago. Yeah. And they've been doing, it's almost been like every 2 years they've been revising that contract, restructuring it, because of the way other schools and other coaches are getting their contracts. And so now when you're seeing A&M, you're seeing LSU, you're seeing Penn State, you're seeing Michigan, you're seeing Michigan State. They're throwing monopoly money at these guys. And so you almost wonder, to me, I don't think Saban restructures his contract. This is just me he's 70. I think he's 70.
He's 70.
He's 70
That's the
right
big
now.
thing too.
That's the big thing. 70. Yes. Like, I think that he coaches out the rest of his contract and then gives the reins to someone else. I really don't see him coaching any further than that. Yeah. If he does, it's like Joe Pa here.
Yeah.
You're going to have that guy with the thick glasses on the sidelines and everything.
He's just going to be a figurehead.
Yeah. And at that point in time, depending on where Alabama is. If Alabama is still winning the SEC, if they are still competing for national championships, then maybe he does continue.
Yeah.
But if it's kind of one of those lame ducks where, like you just said, he's just a figurehead, they're kind of middle of the road, that type of thing. Then yeah, for sure. I think he sees himself out, but at the same time, I don't see Saban being the type of person that will be a lame duck coach though either.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think if Saban ever feels like he can't bring the vim and vigor that he brings to the table, which makes him a great coach, which makes that program tick and makes them continue to be competitive, because he's eating chicken wings and eating every little bit of fucking meat off the bone, right? Every single play of every single game. That's what makes them great. And I think once he gets to a point like that he can't do that, I don't see him coaching like Joe Pa. Joe Pa loved Penn State so much that he just couldn't give it up. I don't know that Nick Saban feels the same way about Alabama. I think he feels that way about the game. And if that passion, if that ability to bring that to the game ever goes away from him, I think that's when we'll see it. And yeah, man, he's 70. He's got like 6 or 7 years left on his contract. Imagine being 76, 77 and wanting to get up and just fucking grind every day. I know he's not out on the recruiting trail, right? I can't imagine he is. He's probably there to seal a deal with some of the, 5-star recruits. But like, imagine just being on the grind every day at 76, 77 years old. I couldn't imagine. So I'm with you. I think he plays this out, and we'll see what his energy level is, I guess, at that point.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think to kind of address Aaron's question too, I don't know what the college football landscape looks without Saban, because he's that polarizing guy, right? It's like the NFL with Belichick. Who's going to divide America the way that Nick Saban does for college football, right? Who's the next guy that people are going to love but love to hate, right? So I think college football might be in this weird landscape of like euphoria. Everybody's just happy. And then someone's going to come along and be that person who's going to fill in and win 5 titles in 7 years. And then we're going to say, okay, that's the guy that I like to hate, or that's the guy that I really like to like, It'll be, I think college football will be looking for the next Saban at some point. Yeah, I think, Aaron, that's the perfect perfect way to put it, right? So, who's that person that sets the standard?
Yeah, so you brought up Aaron brought up the question, and you kind of hit on the question on who's that person that stands out, okay? So it takes me back to the 90s. You had Joe Pa, okay? You had Tom Osborne at Nebraska. You had Bobby Bowden at Florida State. You had Steve Spurrier at Florida. And then moving on, you had Mac Brown at Texas. You had Pete Carroll, USC. Now, some of those guys, they weren't at their programs for as long as Spurrier, Osborne, Bowden were, or Joe Pa. And now Aaron's asking the question, who sets the standard? Saban's been at Alabama since 2008, I believe.
Yeah, I think that's
he won the Natty. Yeah, he won the Natty with LSU in 2007. I think he went to Alabama.
He went to Miami.
He went to Miami for a year,
and then back.
Okay, so 2009, 09 then?
Right around that time.
Yeah. Okay, so Saban's been with him for 12, 13 years, okay? What other college football coach has been with with their program for that extended period of time?
I think I know where you're going, right? You look at in South Carolina, right? Clemson. You got Dabo.
Yeah. Dabo.
Is Dabo that guy now? And I think what's unique about Dabo is that he's like Bobby Bowden. Remember how Bobby Bowden was just this like jovial grandpa, everybody, you couldn't help but like the guy because he was just like, oh shucks, we got a really good football team and we're gonna go out here and we're gonna try our best. And I really love these guys. And like he's like everybody's grandpa. And I know Dabo's only in his like 50s, but like I think it's hard to hate Dabo.
It
right?
is.
Unless you're a Gamecock fan, right? Like it's hard to hate Dabo.
Yeah.
So I don't know that he'll be as polarizing, but I think that you're on the right track, that he might be the guy to take that mantle and be the standard, as Aaron put it.
Yeah, for sure. And it just like anything, everything evolves. So I really don't think you're going to get a Dabo, a Saban, a Joe Pa, a Bowden, an Osborne, a Spurrier at these institutions for that extended period of time. Why? Money.
Money is nuts.
Money is nuts right now. But also, a lot of these people, a lot of these guys, they're looking for the next best thing.
Yeah.
And it's just like Jimbo. Okay.
It was interesting to see Jimbo.
It really was, because
down that fucking
that much money, but in the same conference. Same conference though. Now I can see, moving to a better conference.
True.
I can see moving from the Pac-12 to an A&M, an LSU, whatever. But the same conference offering that much money. It's crazy. But also at the same time, you see these coaches wanting to go to the next level as well too. You saw Cliff Kingsbury do it. There's been talks about Lincoln Riley possibly going to the NFL. Pete Carroll did it. Harbaugh's in the rumors again to go back to the NFL. So it's just there's just so many factors now. It's not like the early days, where we saw coach and truthfully, if you have a bad season or a bad season and a half, you're done.
That's the other thing too. ADs are so quick to move on now that like it's natty or bust. And I think that has the same effect that the constant movement has, right? The same contributing factor. You mentioned money. I think money is also what makes these ADs antsy to get wins, antsy to win conference titles, antsy to play in the playoff, antsy to win national titles. I think that has a lot to do with why they move on from coaches, because the fucking coffers are so deep, man, that like the boosters are just like, yeah, fuck this guy, get us a new guy, right? I've got another $100 million I'll throw at you. Here's let me sell some of my fucking private stock, or let me open up another oil well, right? Like there's so much money that these ADs are just so quick to move on that it is hard to get that longevity. And I don't know that we're gonna get the several people like we had in the 90s. You brought up Bowden and Osborne and Spurrier and Joe Pa and all those guys that were at programs for a long time. It's rare these days to see a guy like Saban at Bama for over a decade, to see Dabo at Clemson for, I think he's over a decade now.
I think he might have been, well, I think he might have been right around the same time as Saban too.
Yeah. So it's rare to see those guys that stay at programs for this long, both because they see the grass greener on the other side, but also ADs are really quick to pull the trigger.
Yeah. And and we've talked about it before, so we won't beat a dead horse about it. But we'll just make reference to it because it's on the same subject. The ADs are making these contracts for the coaches.
Yeah.
7, 8 years, 10 years. And it's like, why are you doing that? Why? Like it just does not make sense. The contract that makes sense is the Stoops contract at Kentucky.
Yeah.
To where it's you hit certain number of wins, you get an extra year added to your contract. I think you got like maybe a 5 or 6 year contract. And then after every season, if you have a I think 7 wins.
The bowl eligible season, I think.
Yeah,
is
6
right?
or 7 wins,
like that.
then another year is added onto your contract. So it's just a rollover contract, which if you're competing, like, and Kentucky's realistic. Kentucky is not a football school.
They're a basketball school.
They're a basketball school. They realize that. They have a good thing with Stoops right there. They want to keep that.
Oh, yeah.
So with that being said, they are very realistic in what they have to offer and everything else. And so I think they set the parameters and that contract for Stoops. That's a win-win contract. That's a win for everybody, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. And that's a smart contract. And I think these ADs are willing to give that because they're not paying it. They're not paying the contracts, right? And these boosters with the deep pockets, they continue to just give money to their alma maters to keep funding the football programs, you know. And I know the money gets separated, like, you know, I get it, right? Like every school has so much money that has to be spread out. Booster money gets spread evenly, but we all know that football is a revenue generating program. Football brings in money at 90% of colleges, and then there's the other 10% that are basketball schools, right? The ACCs and Kentucky and whatnot. So they're willing to spend this money because they know it's just going to keep coming in. So I think that it's reckless, as you put it, by the ADs. It just doesn't make sense that they put these contracts in place, but there's no ramifications for the fucking ADs, man. They just get to keep spending other people's fucking money.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. For sure. So Aaron, great questions there. Appreciate that.
Absolutely.
So with that being said, we will take a quick 30-second sponsor break here, and we'll come back with our awards for the season and go from there. So first sponsor up is our Pocket Pair Club, pocketpairclub.com, Pocket Pair Club, club number 26881, pocketpairclub.com. All right, our first sponsor was brought to you by pocketpairclub.com, Pocket Pair Club, club number 26881. All right, we're back from our sponsor break. We're going to get into some awards that we had done for the season. And first one that we're going to talk about, we had this every episode. It was our Heisman Stock Watch. And both Gary and I agree on this one, that the voters got it right with this award, with the Heisman, with Bryce Young. It was a weird year. Gary had said previously that, you know, there wasn't someone that really, really stood out, except for Bryce Young stood out enough. I think is the best word for it. He got the job done. He stood out enough from the other contenders, the other finalists, to where he was, I think, the overall majority vote for everyone voting for the Heisman. And so for that, both Gary and I agree that the Heisman voters got it right. And so Bryce Young is our Tailgate Trash Talk Heisman Stock Report winner for the season. Gary, any words to go along with Bryce there?
No, nothing crazy additional. I think we've talked about it, right? There just wasn't. It didn't seem like there was going to be a lot of competition for Bryce Young this year in terms of Heisman. I think some of the guys that got votes are going to be things we'll talk about a little later, but when you're the best player on the best team, you know, to finish the season number one after championship weekend, I I think you're going to get some votes by default, and then, being the quarterback at Alabama, I think it really did boil down to that there wasn't a lot of other players who really asserted themselves. We thought Ritter might, halfway through the season after the Notre Dame win, and then he kind of fell back.
Yeah,
in terms of production. And Kenny Pickett, while I think he's a wonderful professional prospect, I think that in terms of the numbers needed to really garner that respect for the Heisman voting, I don't think it was there. Pittsburgh's not a national brand necessarily. If they had been, a one-loss or a no-loss team, maybe he gets a little more recognition for that. So I think you put it perfectly. Like, by default, Bryce Young, not to knock his production.
No,
this was a weird year.
Yeah, it was. And the only gripe that I have with the committee here is not even having Kenneth Walker.
Why wasn't he
in the mix of things? Like, dude, that dude deserved to be there, for sure. And to not even have him, I think he was 6 or 7.
Dude,
like
so disrespectful.
Did you not see what the dude did?
Disrespectful.
And like, Michigan State was not they had a tough schedule. They finished right up there in the top 10 for the season. And the amount of was it 8 games? I think he had 8 games where he had over 100 yards rushing, and the comeback win against Michigan where he ran for 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Like, come on, bro.
Bananas.
So that's my only
2 bills, 5 tutties, knocked off Michigan. Like, yeah, I'm with you 100%. That was so disrespectful that they showed him such disrespect.
Yeah. So, but before we go to our next award, going along the lines of disrespect, the gripes or whatnot, 4 awards. Gary, I know you have one that you want to touch base on real quick before we move on to our other awards.
Yeah, so I think that the award itself was given to the right person. Nakobe Dean is the best linebacker in college football this year. That dude is going to be a wonderful field general at the NFL level. He can cover sideline to sideline, great tackler, seems to be a great leader on that defense. But my gripe isn't with the award. My gripe is with the fact that Will Anderson got Heisman votes. And I understand that, like, sometimes voters outsmart themselves. But I think we need to start holding these dudes accountable for this. Like, Will Anderson didn't lead the country in sacks. He didn't lead the country in tackles for loss. He's a great player. I'm not trying to diminish who Will Anderson is, but like, Nakobe Dean, if anybody's getting votes as a linebacker in college football, it should be Nakobe Dean. So that's my gripe. It's just, what the fuck are we doing with the Heisman vote that we're just kind of throwing shit out there, right? Oh, I'm going to put Bryce Young at 1 because he's going to win, and then I'm just going to throw Will Anderson at 2 because I'm roll tide roll. Like, fuck off. Get out of here with that shit. Will Anderson's a great player. I think he's going to be a great prospect at the next level. But that, to me, got under my skin a little bit with him getting votes for the fucking Heisman.
Yeah, no,
I think he finished like 5th or something too. Like, it wasn't just like a meanie, like some dude just voted for him. Like, he got quite a few fucking votes.
Yeah, for sure. No, I agree with you. I agree. So, right there with you, bud. Next award for Tailgate Trash Talk. Let's go to the Ray Guy Award.
All right.
Best kicker.
I like it.
We differed on this one.
Okay.
We did. Okay. I like your pick, and I like your reasoning behind it. I didn't think of it that way.
Yeah.
So I do like your pick. So Tailgate Trash Talk for the Ray.
I like
Guy
your
Award.
pick.
Yeah,
I do like your pick.
So I went with.
We're not going to disagree that much.
Yeah. To be honest with you, your guy was my number 2. So I went with Adam Korsak out of Rutgers, and Gary went with Matt Araiza from San Diego State. So, but Gary gave a little perspective on his pick, which it makes some sense. So I don't want to take anything away from you. This is your guy. So tell everyone what you told me. And it just made sense to me. I was like, I never thought of it like that. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and I think Korsak's got potential to be a 20-year punter in the league, 15, 20 years. I think he's going to be one of the top punters at the next level. Dude's got a fucking rocket.
He's got a rocket
for a right leg. But my big thing with Ariza is he's such an interesting commodity. And I wonder if, because he can do both, he's a really, really good place kicker. I know a lot of punters in the league do kickoffs because they just have a strong leg, but kicking off a tee is different than place kicking. He's actually a really good place kicker. So I am curious if there's an NFL team and like a Belichick might try to get smart about something like this, that's willing to take him on as both a punter and a kicker in the NFL and save a roster spot for someone else. The tricky part is, if he gets hurt, you lose both your punter and your kicker in a game. So there is that aspect that I realized that you'd have to have some sort of emergency scenario in place. But I think there's some intrigue with whether or not an NFL team would be willing to take Ariza on and say, you're our guy for punts, you're our guy for kickoffs, you're our guy for field goals, and we're just going to forget about special teams altogether because we've got all three covered with one guy. And I can go add some depth somewhere else. Is it an extra offensive lineman? Is it an extra running back? That sort of thing. So that's what really intrigues me about it. And look, Korsak was my number 2. Like, I think he was in the running for the Ray Guy Award too. I think he was finished second in the voting. If he didn't, he should have, because that dude can just fucking flat out kick. But I really like what Matt Ariza can do in terms of both punting and kicking.
Well, yeah, and especially, the way you put it there with getting some depths at other places, adding some depth on the roster, especially now with the roster depths that the NFL has allotted with COVID going on. So, and it's easy to go out and get a kicker, to get a punter just like that if he does go down with an injury. Now, if he goes down with an injury during the game, then no, you're kind of screwed and you need to find someone else in game.
Yeah.
But if it happens during the week or something, pretty easily available to go get someone off the streets. Clearly, just like Jacksonville did this year, they got a guy literally off the street.
Yep.
So that's our Ray Guy Award winner for both Gary and myself. I had Adam Korsak out of Rutgers University, and Gary had Matt Ariza out of San Diego State. Our next award, we did not differ on. I did go back and forth between one other guy, but it was not the Home Depot Coach of the Year Award winner. I will not vote for him. And in case anyone is wondering, the Home Depot Coach of the Year Award winner was Harbaugh out of Michigan. I will not vote for him. But I was kind of going back and forth here between our winner and the national champion Kirby. And I think it was more for the fact the defensive side of the ball. What they did on defense the entire season, aside from the SEC championship game, domination, unreal. Yeah. So, but our Tailgate Trash Talk Coach of the Year goes to none other than Luke Fickell out of Cincinnati. And as Gary put it in our messaging, the first coach to bring a non-Power 5 school into the CFP playoffs. So for that, Coach Fickell, you are the Tailgate Trash Talk Coach of the Year.
Yes, sir.
So, but no, I mean, you got to give it to. I think you have to get undefeated season as well.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and I know Kirby's right there, right? I kind of took in. I sort of took the national championship out of consideration
I did
when I
too.
was
Yeah,
thinking
for
about
sure.
it, because
All the awards are done
they're done before
yeah.
then. So I
Yeah.
tried to stay, kind of in line with that. But yeah, that it's not at all to knock what, and even Jim Harbaugh, right? Like, it's not to knock what he did, getting Michigan over the hump, beating Ohio State, getting to the playoffs. He had a great year, but like, that to me isn't coach of the year shit. What Luke Fickell did, and Kirby Smart, if we're taking the national championship especially into consideration, what he did, that's coach of the year shit. So for me, because I separated the national championship and looked at it as the awardees when the awards were tallied, that's why I went Fickell. But Kirby Smart is absolutely deserving of plenty of credit for what he did this year as coach as well.
Yeah, and your dad just said Jim might be going to Chicago. There's rumors he might be going to Chicago. There's rumors that he might be going to Vegas.
Yep.
So we'll see.
His name is linked to the NFL, essentially. There's a lot of interest from teams that have head coach openings. Chicago seems to be a really good fit, in terms of he's a beloved kind of son there, having played for the Bears for quite a few years. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops, if he is going to leave Ann Arbor or not.
For sure. So with that, those are our Tailgate Trash Talk awards for the season. We will take a quick sponsor break and come back with our salute to service. So real quick, XL Constructors out of Overland Park, Kansas. XL Constructors, contact Ryan Trotnick out of Overland Park, Kansas. XL Constructors, xlconstructors.com. That was XL Constructors out of Overland Park, Kansas.com. Ryan Trotnick with xlconstructors.com.
Real quick before we hit salute to service, I don't want to ignore what Aaron said about Jeff Traylor. What a job he did with UTSA this year. The Roadrunners
sorry, Aaron. Apologize. Yes, you have been on the Roadrunners since day one. We appreciate it. You actually introduced us to the Roadrunners.
Yeah, absolutely.
And for sure, like, they had a hell of a season.
Phenomenal.
They kind of pattered out at the end of the season there, unfortunately. But yeah, they had a hell of a season. Yeah. It was fun to watch too, and it was fun to listen to their coach as well speak and just everything. And we talked about it a few episodes ago. Just listening to their coach speak and everything like that. Like, he's if he still has the success, I think he's going to be the one. I think he could be one that stays there for a while. He seems like he is a guy that is committed to that university down there in San Antonio.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if he does, because like, Texas is a hotbed for football talent, right? So like, he could build a program there. You could see them becoming like what Boise State was.
Yeah.
Right. Like, and Boise State's still a decent program, but like what they were for about a 6-year stretch.
Yeah.
UTSA could turn into that, because Texas is so rich with football talent that if he can get some guys to come there,
for sure.
And if they can keep him, I worry that UTSA won't be able to keep him, but if they can keep people from knocking down the door to come get him, I think that he's got a chance to really build something there.
I think, Aaron, correct me if I'm wrong, since you follow him a little bit more than we do, but I think they're putting some money into the facilities there as well too right now, currently. So yeah, it's if they're trending in the right direction, if they're doing everything possible that in their power to get the facilities to up to where they need to be and can pay him, and if they can keep on.
So what's
winning.
interesting about that too is that San Antonio is on the radar for one of the next NFL franchises too. So
Wow.
UTSA putting money into their facilities there. There is talk that the NFL team that goes to San Antonio would play at the same facilities. So it's a strategic investment for both that program, but also the city to potentially attract NFL.
Okay.
And think about the money that that university would have if the NFL comes to San Antonio. You're talking big time infusion of money into the city, infusion of interest in the city from a football perspective. Like that could really play out in their favor. So
For sure.
I don't know when that expansion is going to come, but there is a lot of conversation that San Antonio is really high on the list because of some of the refurbishment they've already done to the facilities, but also some of the plans that they have in the future, for that. Plus, obviously, Texas football market's pretty good. San Antonio's a decent market, not a big market, but that's very interesting. Yeah, and Aaron, right. Like Texas, it's going to be hard to wrestle right the fandom out of the hands of the Cowboys and whatever niche that Houston has, but San Antonio is on the radar for an NFL team. So in addition to what UTSA is doing for themselves, there could be an additional infusion of NFL interest and money and obviously building up of the city infrastructure 5, maybe 10 years down the road. But if they can keep Traylor around, I think that they have an opportunity to become maybe potentially like the next Cincinnati, right? Getting into the playoff or something along those lines.
Yeah, for sure. So appreciate you bringing that up, Aaron, because we did somewhat forget about them. So thank you.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to one of the most important segments in all of podcast history, our salute to service, which is brought to you by foldsofhonor.org. Folds of Honor presents the salute to service.
All right. This week's episode goes to Army First Lieutenant Dustin D. Vincent. Not a lot of details on Dustin, but I assume that's because some of the operations he would have been serving in terms of capacity. But serving during Operation New Dawn, Dustin died on November 3rd, 2011. He was from Mesquite, Texas. He was assigned to the 1st Battalion, 5th Field Artillery, 1st Brigade Combat Team, 1st Infantry Division out of Fort Riley, Kansas. He died November 3rd at a contingency operating site that's planning for emergencies, whether it's evacuations, whether it's emergency support. He died of wounds caused by enemy small arms fire in Kirkuk Province, Iraq. Army First Lieutenant Dustin D. Vincent, we have the watch.
The best part of every episode is always the salute to service. And it's always the hardest one to transition from as well too. Because it every time you're saluting someone, it's always posthumously. So for that, we cannot give enough thanks and gratitude to all the men and women who have sacrificed so much, and their families as well. But we will try to bring back that BDE and persevere throughout here. So our next segment, which will be the last one for this year, has to do with some plays that we thought were instrumental, brought that BDE. And there might be one in here that Gary brought in that, was kind of just like a big FU to a certain committee. And so like I told you earlier, Gary, I don't have a clip for that one.
We can bring the smoke.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and talk about our moments first, and then we can play the clip.
Yes, sir.
Love so go ahead, bud.
All right, we'll kick it off at number 5.
Is yours.
We'll kick it off at number 5. I saved some of the ones that we could kind of put a stamp on, right, that had plays, but this one feels really good, so we're going to lead off with it. This one's just a big fucking, as you said, fuck you, middle finger to the college football playoff committee and all those fucking haters and naysayers out there that, the fucking group of 5 and blah, 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 they don't belong. Fuck you. Cincinnati belonged. They showed that they belonged against Alabama. The offense couldn't get going, but I'll tell you what, that fucking Nick Saban-led, Bill O'Brien-led offense felt the pain against that Cincinnati Luke Fickell-led defense, and they held their own against Alabama, against a Power 5 team, against the team that people thought might win the national championship, and they got damn close to winning the national championship. I have zero doubt in my mind that Cincinnati belongs in the college football playoffs, and that Nirvana with the milk of your dreams. Is that me? Anyway, I don't know what the hell that was.
I don't know.
Did you hear that?
I did.
Okay. I don't know what the hell that was. But anyway,
there
it is.
Yes.
Love it.
Everybody but your dog.
That was the commercial leading up to it, wasn't it?
This is what Gary was feeling.
Yes. A, B, C, D, E, F, U. Love it.
Oh.
Yeah, that's the exact sentiment, though, because, man, I've heard it year in and year out, and there's never been a team that I could really just put my foot behind and say this team belongs. This was the team, and they went to the college football playoff, and they asserted themselves. They showed that they belonged, and we can no longer should we have this conversation that the group of 5 doesn't belong, because Cincinnati went and showed out against Bama. So fuck you, CFP committee, and kudos to you, Cincinnati, for bringing the heat on defense. The offense really sputtered, but man, that defense played very, very well against Alabama, against the Heisman winner, and Alabama with all those weapons. So love that.
For sure. I'm right there with you. Definitely a big statement for a non-Power 5 conference school this year, even though they almost let it slip a couple times there after that big win at Notre Dame. They were almost giving every reason to the CFP to not put them in there, but then you had some things play out as well too, to where it was almost inevitable that they did belong there. So yeah, kudos to Cincy, Coach Fickell, and the Cincinnati University there for making the playoffs.
Look, I think one big thing people need to remember too about Cincinnati, no matter how you feel about whether they got in or not, the team that they beat that really put them on the map makes the playoff if Cincinnati doesn't beat them.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And if Cincinnati loses a game down the stretch, I think Cincinnati or Notre Dame finds a way to get in. So let's kind of pump the brakes a little bit about saying, they only beat Notre Dame. Like, that's a playoff team if Cincinnati doesn't beat them, because they beat Wisconsin. They beat everybody else that was on their schedule too.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. So that was number 5. What was number 4, Gary?
Number 4, little tip of the cap. There's some mixed sentiment with this coach in the room, but Harbaugh finally got over the hump, right? And 5 straight losses to Ohio State. And he finally got over the hump, beat Ohio State. This, I think, would have moved up maybe a little bit on our list. At least it would have for me, and maybe you and I could have gone back and forth a little bit on it. But if they had played Ohio State, and I know it's not possible, but if they had played Ohio State in the Big Ten championship, and that was when they put the stamp on it with Ohio State, probably moves up the list a little bit. But
Yeah.
Harbaugh getting over the hump, beating Ohio State, and then being able to finish the deed against Iowa to get into the Big Ten, get the Big Ten championship, but also get into the college football playoff. That was a big moment. I feel a little different about Harbaugh than you do.
Hey, it's all right.
It's still of the college football
it was still
landscape.
It was still a big
Absolutely.
moment. I mean, it's like we've talked about Saban and the coaching tree that he has produced, and those coaches not having any success against Saban in head-to-head matchups. And finally, Jimbo Fisher got it this year at Texas A&M, and then Kirby Smart got it in one of the most
grand fashion,
grand stage,
absolutely,
at the national championship. So, it is what it is. I mean, kudos to Harbaugh on this. I'll give him credit, because he took a pay cut. This year with it, and brought in some different coaches, and it panned out for him. It did. And for me, I don't care for Ohio State or Michigan. It's like, which is the lesser of the two evils here on this one. And at this point, it was almost like, all right, come on, Harbaugh. Let's see what you can do. I thought Ohio State was going to win that game. But yeah, it's always nice to see those rivalry games, especially at the last game of the season going into, like you said, the conference championships and everything else, because it does seem like those games have that added oomph to them, and that one right there, that one's been going on for years, and it just has that rich history to where, there's bad blood between the two schools. There's bad blood between the coaches, it seems like, and so it's always nice to see either team win, because then you get to see the fans' reactions and everything else. And it was definitely nice to see Michigan's fans' reaction at home once that clock struck 0, and you saw a lot of people out there. You saw Desmond Howard out there. You saw Charles Woodson. You saw basketball coach for Michigan.
Beeline.
No, former player.
I'm sorry. Juwan Howard.
Howard.
Beeline's not in Michigan.
Yeah, not
he
anymore.
went to Cleveland forever.
Yeah. But man, you just saw the love, you saw the support, you saw the excitement from those guys, and just going up to Harbaugh and just giving him hugs and and be like, just be like, and so that's what it's all about. And so kudos to Michigan, kudos to Harbaugh on that one. So yeah. But like you said, if it was against Ohio State in the conference championship game, which we know that can't happen, but if it was in the conference championship to go to the playoffs, man, that would have been right. That would have been a notch ahead. for sure. But so that was number 4. Number 3.
Yeah, number 3. Big dick energy. We love the big dick energy around here.
We do.
We're going to talk about a guy who is the inaugural and still only member so far of the Tailgate Trash Talk Hall of Fame, Desmond Ridder, and his wonderful response to his offensive coordinator, who asked him how he felt he was going to deal with the noise in South Bend, because it can get loud in South Bend, and that is no secret. It does get crazy loud at South Bend. They are very, very passionate about the Golden Domers. And his response was, it's not going to be loud for very long.
Love it. Love it.
I loved it in the moment, but I did say, like, let's not tell the reporter that you said that,
the week
right? Don't give them bulletin board material. However, they went out and fucking made good on it. They beat Notre Dame, and they beat them pretty handily. Like, they were out front early, and they did quiet the stadium. Kudos, man. Tip the cap. Well done. Well-deserved induction into the Tailgate Trash Talk Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that was pretty awesome. And like you said, we talked about it that week on the show where, man, just keep your mouth shut. Don't give them any bulletin material, but we love the energy.
Yes.
Like say that to your coaches, say that to your teammates and everything else like that. Don't go saying it to a reporter the week of the game. But we love the energy. We love that BDE. Yeah. And they definitely brought it. He definitely brought it that game. And, like we'll see here in just a minute, we have video for all these except for the CFP one. But yeah, I love it. I love it. And like you said, he was our inaugural and only member of the Tailgate Trash Talk Hall of Fame right now. So we didn't have a lot of it this year.
No.
So hopefully next year we get a little bit more a little bit more trash talk going on. So all right, number 2. This is one I would have put this at 1, but I like it. I like your number 1 too. So I went with number 1 because there's still a lot of.
I'm with you 100%. Though I was tossed up between 2.
Yeah, there's back.
When I was going to propose to you, honestly, I was very much.
For your reason,
it's like 1 and 1A.
It is, yeah, and it's not even like a 1A, 1A, 1B type thing. It's like, but for the reasons you said, like over 40 years, this and that, and but this was, and before that, this was, if that didn't happen, I think this for sure would have been our number 1, and it probably is one of the best sports moments of the year so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so what we're talking about is the Texas A&M field goal kicker, his wife, his family, up in the stands cheering him on as he is about ready to kick a potential game-winning field goal against Alabama at Texas A&M field. And just the raw emotion and passion that his family had, and just everything. Like I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it.
I am too.
And just seeing them and what they were going through as he's kicking it, and then the kick goes up, A&M
they break down.
Yes, and it's just just love that energy, love the passion, love the raw emotion, and that's what college football is all about.
Yeah,
and that's what we live for each and every week. Like, we love to see those moments. Like, that is what makes college football.
Yeah, you said it perfectly. I can't say it any better than that. That's what makes college football so great. You hang on every single game so much more than at the professional level. Games just matter so much more because of all the storylines, everything that goes on. But it's such an intimate feel too. And I can say as somebody who played college sports, like, you feel different when you've got everybody around you, but your family's so invested in college football, especially. I can't imagine when every game means as much as it means. It's just unreal. Sometimes you see that raw emotion come out, and it really just signifies, as you put it, what college football is all about.
Yeah, for sure. And so with that was our number 2, and moving on to number 1, was one that had been a long time coming. It had been waiting 41 years and is the one play that pretty much sealed the deal for Georgia and Kirby Smart and company, and that was the pick six.
Yep. Put a stamp on it. Put that final nail in the coffin. Put the fires out. Call off the dogs. Hunt's over. That was and it was such a fitting way for it to end for Georgia, because we've talked about it all year how dominant that defense has been, and for
much so, yeah.
For them to put the stamp on that game was just unreal. It was so amazing. And then to see all the outpouring of raw emotion again, and Saban and Kirby meeting at midfield, and everything that was involved there. We've already talked about that, but just everything.
You saw Stetson Bennett on the sideline crying.
He broke down.
Immediately
broke down.
Yeah.
My God, this is real. Unbelievable.
Yeah. So with that, that is our top 5 plays, our top 5 moments of the 2021 college football season. So with that, here is some video of those top moments.
Down and 10 at the Ohio State 31. Again, they run it. Haskins spreading. Yeah. Let's go.
All right. Okay. Return to the Mac. Get up what it is, what it does, what it is, what it isn't. Looking for a better way to get up out of bed instead of getting on the internet and checking a new hit. Me get up. First shot, hip strut walking. A little bit of humble, a little bit of cautious. Somewhere between like Rocky and Cosby's for the game. Nope, y'all can't copy up. Bad moonwalking, and this here is our party. My posse's been on Broadway, and we did it all way. Grown music. I shed my skin and put my bones into everything I record to it. And yeah, I'm on. Let that stage light go and shine on down. Got that Bob Barker suit game and Plinko in my style. Money, stay on my craft and stick around for those pounds. But I do that to pass the torch and put on for my town. Trust me, on my INDEPENDENT shit hustling. Chasing dreams since I was 14 with the 4-track bustin'. Halfway across that city with the back question. Labels out here, now they can't tell me nothing. We give that to the people, spread it across the country. Labels out here, now they can't tell me nothing. We give it to the people, spread it across the country.
Here we go back, this is the moment. Tonight is the night, we'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Here we go back, this is the moment. Tonight is the night, we'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
Nah, can I kick it? Thank you, yeah, I'm so damn grateful. I grew up really wanna go fronts, but that's what you get when Wu-Tang raised you. Y'all can't stop me, go hard like I got an 808 in my heartbeat. And I'm eating at the beat like it gave a little speed to a great white shark on shark week. Raw, time to go up, gone, deuces goodbye. I got a world to see, and my girl, she wanna see Rome. Caesar make you a believer, nah, I never ever did it for a throne. That validation comes from giving it back to the people. Now, sing this song and it goes like, raise those hands, this is our party. We came here to live life like nobody was watching. I got my city right behind me. If I fall, they got me. Learn from that failure, gain humility, and then we keep marching.
Can we go back? This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us. Go back. This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us. Like the ceiling can't hold us.
But so we put our hands up.
girls everywhere. Titty ass, hands in the air, so party over here. Shaking for the man of the year. Met man of the year, met man of the bounce. Where I see girls everywhere. Titty ass, hands in the air, so party over here. Shaking for the man of the year. Met man of the year, met man of the bounce. Where I see girls everywhere. Titty ass, hands in the air, so party over here. Shaking for the man of the year. Met man of the year, met man of the bounce. Home of the party in the trees. Sunny lit land of the G's. Please let a nigga breathe. Tank top down for the breeze. Burnt lips, got a blunt full of weed. Peace, love, and the means. Nigga, I ain't come for the beef. You ain't no sheep. Came for the sneak. Got bites for the cheeks. Nigga, I'm the life for the beat. Fuck that, this shit gotta eat. Bounce for the crown. You be hating and I still hold it down. When you round, man, the girls never lounge. Man, I heard you a hound. Right, man, that bitch need a bounce. Tip, bounce out of gown. Hands tied to the sound. Yeah, I'm the rich nigga now. Big bitch, I'm the talk of the town. Make a bitch run them out. Yeah, go south for the boy. Pop down to the floor. Bounce. Bounce. Yeah. Where I see girls everywhere. Titty ass, hands in the air. So party over here. Shaking for the man of the year. Met man of the year. Met man of the bounce. Where I see girls everywhere. Titty ass, hands in the air. So party over here. Shaking for the man of the year. Met man of the year. Met man of the bounce. Where I see girls everywhere. Titty ass, hands in the air. So party over here. Shaking for the man of the year. Get a cat to me out every once in a while. I see hands in the crowd, see white, black blaze in the bound, jumping around. Tip ass bump out of gown, bounce from the ground, get hype for the sound. This first rate from the Lord, pop down from the floor, bounce.
All the way to the end zone, and Georgia is going to conquer the Crimson Tide.
Where I see girls everywhere, titty ass, hands in the air, so party over here, shaking for the man of the year. Met man of the year, met man of the bounce. Where I see girls everywhere, titty ass, hands in the air, so party over here, shaking for the man of the year. Met man of the year, met man of the bounce. Where I see girls everywhere, titty ass, hands in the air, so party over here, shaking for the man of the year. Met man of the.
Dude, it still fucking gets dusty watching that.
I'm glad you said it because
God, it gets so dusty in this
thing.
fucking room every time I see that video, man.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you this. I'm gonna go out on a limb, and I'm gonna book it right now. That moment, that's an SB moment.
Oh, absolutely.
And if it's not, fuck them.
Fuck them if it's not. Absolutely. It fucking should be.
Yeah.
Oh, man. I had to look under the fucking desk here to see if there was someone cutting onions because, every time I watch that video.
Every time. It doesn't matter. Like, I can watch it tomorrow and the same thing would happen as well.
Yep.
Like,
absolutely.
Yeah. It doesn't, it's one of those, like, doesn't get old.
Moment.
Yeah. And that is what we were talking about, that raw emotion, the love, just the tension and just everything that goes into college football right there. That's what it is all about. That's what makes college football the best sport out there. Yeah. And that's why we love doing what we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, top 5 moments for the year for Tailgate Trash Talk. Gary, do you want to kind of touch base on moving forward and what direction we're going in here in the next few months here?
Yeah, so we're going to do our best to kind of stay engaged here in the off season. Obviously, during the season, it's easy to have content, have things that people are interested in, have things that people want to talk about. So we're looking at doing every other week, trying to recap things like coach movement, right? Are there new coach hires? Are there people that transfer? Is it big names, right? JT Daniels just entered the transfer portal. Caleb Williams is still in the transfer portal. Is he actually going to leave Oklahoma? If he makes a move, we'll talk, about that. Is there coaching movements? But as we get closer to the draft as well, we're going to do a mock draft. And then when the draft airs, we won't be able to air the actual draft itself. We tried that with the national championship and got shut down. So we're going to adjust. For the night of the draft, we'll go live and we will talk about the picks as they come out. We won't be able to have the actual video of Kuiper and everybody else, but we will air our discussion about the picks, how we feel about them, fit, obviously, do our best to kind of evaluate, what that pick means for that team. So we may adjust as the offseason goes, depending on how much activity, how much action there is, but we're going to pull back a little bit on the weekly shows, not to just, kind of dispel any of the appreciation we have for those that join the show, but we'll stay engaged as much as possible on the page as well. So look for content on the page, whether it's funny memes that we tend to share, but also as news breaks, we'll do our best to kind of share stuff on the page, as it comes out, and we'll do live shows every other week starting out. We'll adjust as things go.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. And first and foremost, obviously want to thank Gary for a great trash talk season. But also want to thank everyone that has followed along, has commented, has joined us on the shows and everything else, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on here. We appreciate everything. It's been fun. And, Gary and I, we talked actually last night about next year already and kind of some things that we want to do with the show for next year. So we're looking to make it bigger, make it better for everyone involved for next year. So we appreciate everyone and all the comments throughout the whole entire season. So thank you, Gary. Thank you, bud.
Thank you, man. You put in a lot of work, with the graphics, the videos, and all that stuff. So I just want to say I really appreciate it. I know it makes things interesting throughout the show, and I really appreciate everything you do for the show. So I'm just here to jabber my jaws.
and I think everybody knows that is something that you can do very well, good sir. But no, so 2 weeks from today, we'll do our kind of off season, our winter training mode, so to speak. Yeah. But yeah, 2 weeks from today, we'll do it 8:00, and just stay tuned, stay engaged. Like Gary said, we're still gonna be putting some content out there. And like if there's a big significant event that happens on one of our off weeks or something, who knows? We can get on there, that week or something, and have a nice little conference call and go from there. So who knows? But definitely
some trash.
Yeah, exactly. And for our listeners and everyone who has listened and chimed in throughout the year, if there's something that you guys want to see next year or a new segment or anything else like that, let us know. We're always open to comments, to suggestions, because we want to make it better as well, and we want to make it enjoyable for you guys, the listeners and viewers. So definitely let us know, shoot us a message on Facebook, on wherever, and let us know, because without you guys, we are nothing. So yeah,
for sure. Big appreciation for those that tune in every week, and participate, comments like we did earlier with Aaron and with the UTSA, and talking about Saban and Dabo Swinney and all that stuff, man. It makes the show interactive, but it also makes it really easy on us to be able to have those conversations that, I'm not just filling the airwaves with my hot air. We're having some good back and forth conversations.
Exactly. And that's what makes Tailgate Trash Talk what it is. So without further ado, Gary, everyone watching, everyone listening, thank you for a great season 1 of Tailgate Trash Talk. We'll be back in 2 weeks, 8 p.m. Eastern time, for our winter session, and we'll go from. That's right. That's right. That's right. So again, Gary and I cannot thank each and every one of you enough. We appreciate everything. And so without further ado, this is Gary and Big Stove signing off of season 1 of Tailgate Trash Talk.